Genre is a crazy thing.
Now, it may seem odd to think about genre in such a light. We all know the different types of genre that exist for movies, like thriller and action movies, as well as different types of genre in music, like rock and roll and classical music. Just like how genre exists for all types of media, genre in writing follows a similar pattern. Today, I'd like to explore this topic of genre, and what exactly it entails when it comes to message conveyance. To accomplish this, I have chosen two articles to compare: an academic journal article about scientific findings about teacher pay, and an opinion editorial that talks about the same topic, teacher pay. Before we begin, we need to know the question: what is genre?
For this, I interviewed Dr. Amy Conrad, a high school English teacher at Cowan High School. Dr. Conrad teaches both English literature and composition, American English literature composition, as well as English 9 and English 12.
In writing and in the field of rhetoric, how would you describe genre?
Well, when I think of the word genre, obviously there are many types of genres of writing that are out there. So each one has its own unique characteristics that would set it apart from others. For example, fiction versus nonfiction writing versus a media piece versus someone writing an autobiography. Like each type of writing is really defined by different parameters.
These parameters that Dr. Conrad speaks of refers to a thing that in genre that is called conventions. Conventions are things that are typically done within a certain genre. For example, rock and roll music as a genre has a convention of the inclusion of guitars, bass guitars, drums, and singers. Different types of writing have the same types of conventions in each unique genre of writing. Here's what Dr. Conrad has to say about conventions. What is a convention?
What is a convention? I guess I would maybe use that word standard again, but not maybe as it relates so much to Indiana Department of Ed standards. I think about the norms that are related to different types of writing or speaking that we have. So maybe there are certain benchmarks that make something be considered valid or reliable, or not valid or not reliable as we look at different genres.
The two articles that I described earlier have conventions of their own that are typically followed. Let me go ahead and describe each of their conventions now.
For this genre analysis, I have chosen The Impacts of Performance Pay on Teacher Effectiveness and Retention by Andrew J. Hill and Daniel B. Jones, to be able to analyze the conventions that are found in most academic journal articles. One of the major conventions is the use of very dense vernacular and vocabulary. As seen here, many of the words would not very well be understood by the majority of people. Other things of academic articles is the inclusion of an abstract, a summary of everything that is talked about. The structure of these are often followed by this: an abstract, an introduction, which is then followed by existing literature on the topic being discussed. Also goes into methodology of the research being done, the results that were found from the research, the conclusions that can be made about this data, as well as a list of sources that they have. Here's Dr. Conrad with a few other conventions of academic articles.
Well, when I think about my own personal study, I would say that there's a lot of very dense vocabulary. And I know I've had students laugh at me before, and that's okay. When I say I have had to learn to read the dictionary sometimes for what some of those words are. I didn't know what all that was, and so for that high level vocabulary, I needed some help if I was going to try to make it through that. Other important parts of academic writing, one part would be what I would call standing on the shoulders of giants. So finding others in the field who have already written and expressed themselves as it relates to that particular topic, and then I can read those, research those, and then use those, incorporate those into my own writing, not in the form of plagiarism, of course, but in the form of citing those other authors, and then of course having them on my works cited page. I think there's also some very technical writing that happens in high-level academic journals, whether you're reading something about math or the way a statistician used regression analysis to support a hypothesis. Those are some things I think of when I think about academic writing and what might make it a little tedious, but also certainly lends itself to a level of expertise in that form of writing.
With that being said, how do the conventions of an opinion editorial stand up when compared to an academic journal article?
I believe.
Yeah. In my opinion.
Think that, in my opinion. And it is possible that in some editorials or opinion type pieces, you might see that someone does indeed cite a source, but they don't, that person often doesn't dig deeply enough to find the other side of an argument. And that obviously shows a lot of bias, and does, I think, lend itself to a lack of credibility. Sometimes an editorial or an opinion piece might cite someone who believes like they believe. I think editorials or opinion pieces are more anecdotal, so that they might be used to introduce a topic or a subject that we might be taking further in an academic journal writing. If you give an opinion or an editorial, you're really just stating what your gut is, what you think about this. I don't like vanilla ice cream, and here's why it's a bad thing, and that kind of thing.
Opinion editorials also have a focus on an imagery that backs up many of the opinions that are expressed in the articles, as well as the inclusion of the description of the author towards the end, or usually at the beginning, to be able to show credibility.
Each of these conventions are used within their own respective genre to be able to convey a message in a certain rhetorical way. Academic articles are often written with a certain type of formatting, with a certain type of rhetoric, in order to suggest sophistication and trustworthiness in their authors. Opinion editorials are often structured and written in a certain way that do not give this author the same sophistication that journal articles are written in. Given the context of many opinion editorials, they are often written with the intent of gaining a bunch of clicks and views to generate more money for both the writer and the publisher. Developments like this have resulted in the growing idea of the death of expertise. Dr. Tom Nichols, in his 2014 article titled The Death of Expertise, defines this idea as the, and I quote, Google-fueled, Wikipedia-based, blog-sodden collapse of any division between professionals and laymen, students and teachers, knowers and wonderers. In other words, between those of any achievement in any area and those with none at all. He is referring not to the absence of knowledge and understanding, but rather that all people, regardless of educational background or degree, can become an expert given this influx to the accessibility of opinion editorial genre pieces versus the limited accessibility of scientific journal articles. Simply put, the death of expertise may be developing as a result of the increase in the use of opinion editorial genre pieces as opposed to academic journal articles. Dr. Conrad has another valid viewpoint on this accessibility to opinion editorials versus academic journal articles. So, going back to this idea of the death of expertise that has been growing over the past few years, at least from what I can see, do you feel that the easy accessibility to opinion editorials, as opposed to the limited availability of scholarly articles, may be adding to this?
Well, I would probably push back against that a little bit, Christian. I think scholarly articles are probably more readily available now than what they were even 5 or 10 years ago, with how much internet access we have. And with at least, public K-12 schools having inspire.in.gov to use. But to me, it seems that the advent of a steady diet of social media content has made us all experts in some way, and we no longer really try to find facts. Or if we're trying to be informed, I think, and make better educated decisions, other than what someone's grandma's some long relative posts about what they think about something, and that I should take that as truth. I don't take that as truth. And I think we even have to watch our, not just social media, but even our news media for that.
So would you say social media also is features more of that opinion-based editorial? It's about similar to maybe what they are to academic journals.
I think so, but I honestly think, I'm going to sound really negative here. I think it's so easy to consume and digest what's readily available on our phone and maybe not take time to dig. Maybe we've become a little lazier, and it's easier for us to buy what an editorial or an opinion piece is selling instead of wanting to look and find out for ourselves. And I think there's a danger in that. There's a danger in this idea of the death of expertise.
And so, could it be just simply that we have become too lazy to dig deeper? Have we settled to just hear what the next Twitter headline says or what the next Facebook post states as fact? Not much scientific data has been uncovered about this phenomenon, given the fact that this development has really only started happening in the past 4 or 5 years. All in all, genre is a tool used in many different types of writing, and the different types of genre that exist have their own set of conventions that they follow. As these conventions develop, however, there seems to be a growing danger in different types of genre that has been unprecedented before the time of instant 24-hour information that reaches our fingertips in seconds. I hope you're able to take away what genre is, as well as approach different genres with different attitudes and perspectives.